on foreign policy, and with intensifying scrutiny over the attack in Libya, the president is stressing his commander-in-chief credentials.
One thing that I've been absolutely clear about is America's security comes first, and the American people need to know exactly how I make decisions when it comes to war, peace, national security, and protecting Americans. And they will continue to get that over the next 4 years of my presidency.
Joining me now, former Republican Governor Bob Ehrlich. The Center for American Progress's Daniela Gibbs-Leger, and Roll Call's David Drucker. Welcome all. I want to throw up this interesting little nugget, Daniela, on who would do a better job on foreign policy, Barack Obama or Mitt Romney. In September, it was a 15-point advantage for Barack Obama. It is now a 4-point advantage, according to. This is the Benghazi bump, if you will, for Mitt Romney.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that after the attacks in Libya that there was some movement, but I think after the last debate, and we'll see what happens on Monday, that President Obama definitely showed that he is the commander-in-chief, and Mitt Romney really flubbed the whole Libya question at the last debate. So I'm curious to see what happens after Monday.
You know, Governor, like that seemed to be, it's like here was an opportunity for, and you know, he messed up. He messed up. He didn't have his. We just saw Tommy Thompson. That happens at debates. You could sort of flub, and all of a sudden, the best, well-rehearsed line, and you're like, "Hey, buddy, I don't know what you're talking about," you know. And you're like, and it's just panic-stricken. You saw it in the eyes of Romney. It was
well, the bottom line, Chuck.
But does that give him some pause on Monday night?
They can't get their story straight. And the bottom line is they can't get their story straight. Secretary Clinton looks incredibly uncomfortable. That first number you just saw was Osama bin Laden. The second number was Libya. And they still can't get their story straight. And that's the bottom line to this story, and that's the reason you see these poll results.
You know, David, what does Romney have to accomplish at the foreign policy debate? Is it some sense of people know? I mean, what's been interesting about his stances is they're not different from President Obama. He tries to hug him on some issues, but he tries to rhetorically sound different.
It's an issue of leadership, and that's where Mitt Romney has an opening, but I also think that's what he has to communicate. It's not so much, here are 50 things I would do differently as commander-in-chief. It's the idea that you can trust me as a leader in dealing with a foreign policy crisis, in dealing with our national security. And I think when you're looking at the Libya issue, in the last debate, it wasn't so much that the president knocked it out of the park and put the issue to rest. It was that Mitt Romney flubbed it, which means it's still there for him if he tackles it right on Monday. You know, but what I found interesting is right after the debate, they walked away from it. They didn't want to have it. They didn't want to renegotiate. They didn't want to relitigate. Right. It seems like there is this sort of sensitivity to, do we want to go down that rabbit hole? Right, and I think if that's what Mitt Romney has to do on Monday, then he's in trouble, because he hasn't done anything in the past 2 years campaigning to show that he is more trustworthy on foreign policy. And I think this debate is going to be a problem for him, because he has to lay out specifics. You're asking people to make a choice in this election, and if you can't say what you would do differently from the president in Libya or in Iran, then that's a huge problem.
He's not going to be afraid to use the phrase terror war. He's not going to be afraid to label what is clearly a case. Give me a break. That's been disproved now. Look at the context.
It's in the transcript.
Go back to 4 years, the World Apology Tour. It's workplace violence. It is a reticence for some reason to label what is, to borrow a phrase from President Clinton, what is it truly is. And that's been the theme of this administration from day one. President Romney will not be so heavy.
Rhetoric, but again, rhetoric. It's basically all that's been different has been the rhetoric. He has not had anything different on Iran, had anything different on Afghanistan, and it's been unclear where he is.
Does he have to get
specific on that?
Chuck, look, I think it's a matter of nuance, and I think that pre-September 11th, 2012, it was a much harder task for Romney. But given what has happened, in Libya and in the Middle East writ large, he now has an opportunity to prosecute the leadership question and the issue of tone, and it is something that is sellable. And don't forget, this is not a national security election. What he needs to do is strongly check the box, because it's still going to be all about the economy.
Can he afford 90 minutes only on national security, by the way?
No, I think that's a huge problem.
Leading from behind is not leadership. That is going to be a central theme here.
Can he afford to spend 90 minutes not talking about the economy? His last 90 minutes in front of 60 million people.
It depends if they follow the rules.
I'm sure they will. And
Following the rules has not been a...
I think it's going to be. I don't know. I think it's going to be a big. It's going to be a big.
Do you expect Romney to try to change the subject?
I think he'll talk about the economy as a national security issue, and you expect that to come up at least in his closing statement.
They're terrible at it.
They're terrible. I agree.
Both of them didn't do it. They
answer the questions.
They didn't do it.
Who answers a question in a debate?
Yeah. Well, but about as well as you guys answer my questions. Anyway, I kid. Coming right after, we'll have a little lighter fare here. Trivia time. We asked how many presidents have won the election without winning the popular vote. The answer is 4. The first was John Quincy Adams in 1824. He beat Andrew Jackson in a race decided by the House of Representatives. Of course, there was Rutherford B. Hayes in 1876, Benjamin Harrison in 1888, and George W. Bush in 2000. And I'll tell you, folks, there are a lot of people thinking we're headed for this again. I'm sure the country will handle this one well. We'll be right back.